let's move on to the next topic, gentlemen. Let's talk a little bit about ex-ESPN analyst Max Kellerman. And I don't say ex in the sense that he's gone from ESPN indefinitely. He took time off. His name has been all over the media about whether he's coming back or not, in what capacity he's going to come back to ESPN, if he comes back to ESPN. One thing I did learn, that ESPN has this policy, or should I say, they have their upper brass, that they have made the determination that they're not going to let anyone who is an announcer or sports analyst or sportscaster, whichever terminology you want to use, be the dominant force at ESPN. They just not going to let it happen.
Oh, yeah. They show that. They
They're
show
never
that
going to be
every
as big as the brand at ESPN.
No.
They're not going to pay you like you think you should be paid. And it's going to be interesting to see if Stephen A. Smith gets this $100 million deal. More than likely he will.
No, Stephen A. gonna get it. He's gonna get it. That's the only person. That's the only person that they actually do pay.
Exactly.
Because he knows better. He knows his line of where to stop off at, and he knows his do's and don't. He really do. Because anybody that was on ESPN, if they didn't tread lightly, guess what? You don't see them on there anymore. That's what you think? Why you think Skip is really gone? Why you think the thing when you talking about with Max Kellerman? You talking about with what's the guy that played for the Cowboys? Or what's it? Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin. That's why he's not on there, bro. It's bro. Bro, come on. And why you think Shannon Sharp? You think Shannon Sharp was told to step down, or you think he stepped down?
I think he was told to step down, and the things with Shannon Sharp and Michael Irvin, they were kind of like mini scandals. I would say Michael Irvin for sure. I mean, Playmaker, he's a happy-go-lucky guy. Let me tell you a little bit about my experience with Playmaker. Playmaker can talk and conversate with anyone. I've talked to him before out here in LA, and the guy's a happy-go-lucky guy. He's been blessed all of his life, pretty much, from the time that he was able to play football and move on to Miami and then get that contract at Dallas. I just think that he was accused of something that might not have been 100%. That's just in my opinion when it comes to the accusations and the way the NFL network and the way ESPN handled that. I thought it was very sad and shameful in a way, because the guy has been on those networks so long. And then what the NFL network did is they immediately sent him home. I mean, he was at the Super Bowl. How many other analysts do you know that they have immediately sent home after anything has been lodged against them? So that just tells you right there that how they rushed to judgment to judge this guy before they actually got all of the facts, because he had a lot of facts on his side when it came to that. Yeah. People who were witnesses there. I mean, whatever the case may have been, I just thought he was definitely mistreated. Now, getting back to the ESPN portion of it, ESPN used this as a tool not to pay people of what they think their value is. You get an analyst or a sportscaster, they go in there and they think they have negotiating power, where you don't have negotiating power when they make a decision that, look, nobody's is bigger than the brand, other than the CEO and the guy at the top who's making all the money, right? It happened to Marcellus Wiley. It happened, to several others. ESPN is one of the few sports channels that they tend to have mass terminations every year. I mean, and what I mean by mass is they let more than one person go at a time, sometimes doubles and triples. They clean house. And a lot of times they clean house, they really don't have a viable reason to do it. They just do it. I mean, they just go about, look, we don't need this person anymore. We'll get rid of this person. We don't need that person. And Skip Bayless, as you mentioned, Najee, he thought he was bigger than the brand. He thought he was bigger than ESPN. However, Skip Bayless went over to Fox, and he made more money over at Fox. So some of that could have been Skip was going to leave anyway. He wasn't going to stay because he was going to go over to the highest bidder who came to him with the most money.
The highest bidder, because he know who was going to pay him. Come on now. Just like you said, Skip thought he was bigger than that. So why would you not make more money? look how many people that Skip had. Well, okay, for example, when Skip went to Fox, how many people he had to be there with him? It was really just Shannon till he pissed Shannon off, and then he had Michael Irvin and Richard Sherman and all of them at the same time, right?
Guys, and Keyshawn Johnson and all of them joined him. Yeah,
Keyshawn Johnson, another dude, right? But he all of them. Yeah, exactly. So but that was really because of Shannon Sharp left. So he was trying to bring a whole bunch of power to hold that same momentum. Now, as long as Stephen A has been with First Take, look how many people he has had. He done had Skip.
Well,
he done had Max Kellerman.
He had Carrie Champion, who was the moderator as well. She started it out. I think Carrie Champion did.
Exactly, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. Look how many people he's had by his side that's not getting the money that they wanted, and they end up leaving. They the number one show, just like he says all the time. They've been a number one show for years. How are you on a number one show and leave to go something smaller?
Yeah. That's always an argument with old DC. That's been Stephen A's argument. Yeah. But with him always been the number one show, that's his bargaining power, because he can always go to the executives and say, "Look, here's my numbers. I'm beating everybody, and it's been going on for years. And I get that $100 million bag, and that's still being around. And I think he's going to get it ultimately."
Stephen A. Smith.
But if you're so sold on your coworker, you will make sure they get paid too. If he really wanted Skip, he really wanted Max Kellerman on his side, he's going to make sure they stay in his pocket.
No, he's selfish when it comes to that now, Najee.
My point exactly.
He's selfish when it comes to that. He don't care nothing about who's making what.
Yeah. Let me just tell you my angle on Stephen A. Stephen A. is always with his particular show, First Take. He started out as a sports writer in Philadelphia at the Philadelphia Inquirer, and he worked his way up. I admire the way he came up, but when he got to First Take, he became that dominant alpha male on First Take. He did not want anybody coming on the First Take to get bigger than him. That's why, a lot of times on First Take, I used to watch Stephen A. put people on blast all the time. He just basically destroy you if he decided that he wanted to do that. Skip was one of the only few that he didn't do it to. I didn't see him go off on Skip too much, but other times there was other guests and people who came through that he just go off on them, and that's what he did with Max. Max was
he did it with Max a lot.
He did with Max a lot, and what he did with Max,
live TV too.
Yeah. And you would see the expressions on Max's face, like, I can't believe this guy just talking to me like
that. Talking to me like that.
Yeah, I mean, religiously every morning. I don't watch Stephen A. Smith anymore because I just don't have any interest in some of the things that he's been involved in over the past few years, and that's just my opinion of it. I mean, I don't dislike the guy, I don't hate him or anything, but I just can't see myself getting up early in the morning, West Coast time, like I used to do religiously, to watch him, because I think he's got so arrogant until nothing can touch him. Stephen A. wants to be bigger than these athletes. I mean, from what I pick up. He walks. I mean, if you look at how he comes in,
he don't mind calling nobody a scrub.
He don't mind calling people scrubs. He don't mind trying to get coaches fired, talking about, well, this coach should be gone and that coach should be gone, and that's his opinion.
He's done it.
Sure. Yeah, but some of the rhetoric that he has, it's probably his style of rhetoric where that's what made him number one. I mean, if you think about it, that made him number one because he wasn't afraid to stick his neck out there and say, look, this person need to be gone. And he was pretty consistent, and he wasn't discriminatory with that. He did it on both sides. One coach from one particular genre would go, and he'd call them out as well. But getting back to Max Kellerman, I think what they did is they paired Max with Stephen A. for Max to have a different perspective of what Stephen A. had perspective on. And Max, according to that, I don't think Max lived up to that expectation, because Max is a smart guy. I first learned about Max Kellerman from the boxing side. Max Kellerman is a boxing impresario.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal
That's what
boxer.
his
When it comes to boxing, he knows that.
about the history of boxing,
Mm-hmm.
the boxers that box in history. He can tell you because Max is a very smart guy. He's a very intelligent guy. He's very low key. He doesn't raise his voice. And I think Stephen A took that as bait, and Stephen A took advantage of that in some ways because, you know, some days he come on there and he just, like I say, put Max on blast, you know, without any kind of reason to put him on blast instead of respectfully saying, look, I respectfully disagree with you, but no, that's dumb. I mean, that's not that way.
Yeah.
You know, that type of rhetoric is what really.
They called him pathetic.
Exactly.
He said, you know what, you're pathetic. I said, oh my God.
Yeah, and this is
Oh,
live
baby.
TV in front of millions of people. So what happened?
The #1 show, that means everybody watching it.
Exactly. And even Molly would be sitting there looking, staring at Stephen A like, I can't believe you just said this. I just can't believe you just talked to your co-host just like this. That's just like me jumping out in front of you guys and calling Isaiah stupid or calling you stupid, Najee, or saying that's just dumb. I mean, you don't disrespect people who you work with. I just don't see it that way. So Max Kellerman left ESPN, and what ESPN has the habit of doing is they will ask you to take time off and they'll pay you. I think his contract was $5 million, and it says here the ESPN is literally paying him just like he's still on the job for him to go away. You know what?
You
We
ain't paid,
wish
so
they
you can
paid
go
me
away.
like that. Isaiah knows best. Isaiah knows I wouldn't worry about it at all if whether I came back or not. You know, because
Nobody could beat me.
yeah, nobody can beat me.
Nah, not
Not beat me sleeping. Exactly. And that's in the sense of real sleep, laying down, going to bed. Nobody can beat me with that.
Yeah.
So since Max didn't really put up a conflictual conversation, because TV is built on conflict, man. We all know that. We all know these reality TV shows and a lot of these other shows, they build off of the buildup of conflict. People going after each other. And the shows that are like that tend to do better than the shows that don't do like that. So Stephen A has that figured out. He knows, he's got that down pat. He's got that figured out to know that, look, I gotta get conflict with some of these people that come on this show. Now, I'm gonna just tell you a guy that really would have been a good co-host for Stephen A back in the day was Jay Williams. Jay Will. Because Jay Williams took issue with Stephen A always going off on African-American athletes as opposed to white American athletes. And Jay Will call him out on it. The first few times I saw Jay Will on there was like, well, Aaron Rodgers did this. You didn't talk about him, but if an African-American athlete did this, you were all over them. I mean, why would you do that? Why would you talk about it? Especially when it came to the NBA with Kyrie Irving. He had this thing where he would just pretty much try to destroy Kyrie Irving on TV, as far as what I could see.
During the pandemic, man. During the pandemic, he was going nuts.
Yeah, he was going off. So Jay Will would call him out on that. Jay Will would come on to the show and just face him off and basically stare him down and say, you know what? You're not consistent, Stephen A. You don't step when another athlete makes the same type of mistake or some type of mini scandal or whatever. You just don't step up like you do when it comes to Kyrie Irving for calling for certain things to happen to Kyrie, because there were several times where
that was when we was with Brooklyn, right?
Right. When Kyrie was with Brooklyn.
Okay.
You know.
I would go the thing with Brooklyn. He had some things that was very questionable to me too, like the situation with Trump and the when those guys just bum rushed DC.
Right.
I ain't gonna lie, I was pissed off with Kyrie, but Kyrie he took away from basketball, saying the stuff that we got going in DC. I need to get my head together, so I'm gonna step away from basketball for a few days.
Yeah.
And then I said,
that wasn't a good excuse.
You taking games away because something going on in DC.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
people, a lot of times they be siding with these players not to play out of arrest, or for certain issues, I'm like, bro, you pay more to see the players. You don't get prorated for the tickets after you pay for them already. So let's say if I want to see Kyrie play tonight, just for example, if he plays tonight, and I gotta pay $200 to see him per ticket, me and my girl go. So I'm paying $400 to see him play. Cool. He's gonna sit out because he's mad Trump won the election. Whoa, what? I paid $400 to see the rest of the team and I choose?
That's true.
Especially now, Kyrie.
It doesn't seem like it.
So you mean to tell me if AD is hurt, so he's not playing, so it's just Kyrie, and then now he's not going to play because Trump got elected. What? So I'm down $400 to see the bench play? That's what you're telling me? Right. That's not a good excuse, sir.
It's really kind of, it sounds very poor excuse now. And Stephen A. kind of brought some of that out. And I guess he felt the need to, because I think Stephen A.'s angle from it was Kyrie was just taking advantage of something that he shouldn't have been taking advantage of. You know, and that's Stephen A.'s own opinion and perspective of it. But if that's the case, do you call Kyrie out on national TV like that and say, well, you know, this next contract coming up, I wouldn't, if I was a general manager and owner, I wouldn't even consider him with the next contract coming up because he took this time off or he took this day off or whatever. I don't think I would go that far to try to put a professional athlete out there like that, because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know what's going on with Kyrie Irving, nor did Stephen A. know really behind the scenes, because I remember Marvin Lewis, who's ex-coach of the Bengals, came on and told Stephen A. when he finally came on Stephen A.'s show, he said, Stephen A., there's a lot of stuff you don't understand that happens within an organization. I know because I'm within the organization. So when you make those assertions, you have to be careful, because guess what? You don't know what's going on within these organizations. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, but his selfishness don't allow that to manifest on DC. He don't care. Only thing he want to do is get the ratings. He want the conflict going on. He want the mayhem going.
He's done a good job at that. He's one of the best in the business to do that kind of work. I mean, when it comes to, stuff that's considered conflict and things of like that nature, he's right in the thick of it. So my question to you, Isaiah, is what do you think Max Kellerman should do if he decides he wants to come back to sports and talk TV sports? You think he should get his own podcast, kind of like what Don Lemon did after he got let go at CNN, or should he come back to ESPN and go where they tell him to go? Because that's how it's going to be. If he comes back to ESPN, he's going to be placed where ESPN want him to be placed. A lot of times in the early morning slots or the late afternoon slots, those can be detrimental to how many views you get and how many, the type of audience.
It's his fan base. It depends on his fan base.
Exactly. Right.
You always got to remember, if he's under contract, they probably can place him anywhere he wants. He just got to do his job.
Yeah. Because he's already getting paid still anyway. So, yeah, you definitely got to listen to what we say if you still want this bag. So, yeah.
If he wants, all he got to do is just ride it out till the contract is out, man. He's on paid vacation right now and just smoking a cigar and relax.
$5 million a year. Could you be on paid vacation with $5 million a year, Najee?
Oh yeah, I could.
Of course. I do. I run grocery ships. $5 million a year. Yep. What you say? You need some bananas today? All right, let me go get them. $5 million to chill out. Yeah, all right.
But to sum up the whole thing, and we'll move on to the next topic, Max Kellerman was placed on First Take to be kind of the opposite of what Stephen A. was. And it didn't quite work out that way, because Max Kellerman was mild-mannered. He was laid back. He wasn't the kind of guy that he would put certain people on blast in a way where it was louder than Stephen A. Because Stephen A. is not going to let you be louder than him. It's just not going to happen. Right?
Yeah. Right. He gonna cut you off, and he gonna put you in place.
So it looks a little bit.
rude anyway. He just rude when he do that stuff, man. And he know it works for ratings.
Rudeness means it equates number one rating. Yeah. That's just the way it is.
If you look at even the reality shows when Jerry Springer and all those guys came about, all that conflict and mayhem and junk on that TV made the ratings go out the roof. And that's a Stephen A type of tactic, man. He does that. He want to make some kind of guy uncomfortable. He want to make people pissed off with him, and he don't give a crap because it makes his ratings go out the roof. Right. That's his game. That's his niche.
So Najee, do you think Max Kellerman can be as successful as Shay with his own podcast?
Nah. Nah.
Why would
I don't think so. I personally don't think he has the personality to even keep up with Shay. Yeah, his personality is not there, and I'm pretty sure his fan base is not even high as that, and he's been in this longer than Shannon. But when it comes to that, I mean, it really depends, because if because me personally, I didn't like some of his takes anyway, because his boxing is top tier. His boxing is top tier.
Correct.
But he had some takes with Tom Brady when he was with the Buccaneers. He had some takes with them, and I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? How can you say that Brady's falling off and they're about to win a championship? He had something with the last shot in the NBA. He said, they was asking, who you rather take the last shot in the NBA to win a championship? They said Steph Curry, and they said somebody else. He said, no, I'm not going to pick one of them. I'm going to pick Eagle Dollar. I said, you're going to pick Eagle Dollar over Steph Curry?
Remember that.
What? I said, just think about what you said. Eagle Dollar, that's already an inconsistent shooter. He's not even a great free thrower. And you pick Eagle Dollar over Steph?
Yeah,
that right there told me already. That was delusional and not all the way up. I say, bro, there's no
that was
no way to believe that.
That's why he don't pay his
One thing is for sure, ESPN is not going to let anyone get bigger so that they can get so large that they can demand all this money, just like Stephen A is probably going to get. Now, the same thing happened to Reggie Bush, and I believe it was over at Fox. If I'm not mistaken, they used to do Fox College Football Saturday. It was either Fox or CBS, but I'll follow up on it. And it looks as though like they particularly, Reggie Bush went in and he thought he had, basically leverage. He thought he had leverage to be able to get a bigger contract, and they told him, no, bro, we're not going to pay you that kind of money. And he ended up leaving, and he wasn't back on TV anymore for quite some time.
I didn't even know why that happened, DC. Yeah. I thought he was.
I thought he was too. Him, Mark Ingram Jr. They had several guys over there that he was with over at that channel, and it's just like I guess Bush thought that, look, I got the kind of leverage because of my name recognition. I'm a Heisman Trophy winner. I can go in and me and my agent can work this thing out. And I don't think they didn't have the patience to hear at all what he was talking about. So he ended up leaving TV. I don't think he ever came back to a major network unless it's somewhere I don't know anything about. So one thing about these bigger networks, they control the flow. You would never control the flow. You want your own thing, you start your YouTube channel kind of like Shay, build your brand, build your following, and then go on with that, because Shay and Don Lemon are two of the most successful ones I've seen so far.
Yeah, but they all embedded into this thing. He was brand new at it, man. You gotta have some type of form and structure to do that, man. And he wasn't there long enough. He didn't develop his own fan base and none of that stuff. Like Don Lemon been out there for 30 years. Shay been in professional sports and had a Hall of Famer and all this type of stuff. And then he kind of pulled it over to, morning show, and people know him from there.
You've reached the end of another episode of the DC Stewart Sports Talk Podcast. Be sure to connect with us at Facebook and Twitter.com. Your voice is important, so head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Catch our next episode.